Hello everybody and welcome back to M&J Games. I'm Michael and today we are going to do the next tutorial working on this coaster, and it's going to be station building. So once again, just kind of looking at the layout, looking at nighttime, we put some lights on the station. And everybody does stuff differently, and when I'm going through these tutorials, this is in no way me trying to say that this is the best way to do it or that I'm an expert or anything like that. I'm just kind of showing you what I believe I feel like I do pretty well, or what I feel like, maybe easy ways to approach it. Um, so we're going to create a station today, and there are many different ways that you can go about creating your station. A lot of people like to theme their stations to whatever the theme of the area is. I'm terrible at theming, I'll be honest with that. So I just kind of make generic stations, but I feel like I've done a fairly good job of making them unique. So the easiest way to do this, and I didn't know this for the longest time, if you go over here to this one on the end and you click build on station, it creates a grid for you. So now we can go over to create. Let's see, I don't know why I'm doing that, so I don't know why I clicked on facilities. And so I've got all the expansion packs, so I have a lot of different building options. And since this is a steel coaster, there's a couple different routes we could take it. Usually I wouldn't do a wooden type station unless this was an area that kind of had a western theme to it, or unless it was a wooden coaster. Um, you've got some of this new city brick. There's just a lot of different routes you could go with it. There's the diner pieces. I've never done diner pieces. You got the firehouse wall. Is this the one? I do like it's like the stone. I'm trying to remember. But yeah, so what we're going to do is I'm going to use lime plaster. And this is one that I like doing. And I'm going to turn this to, oops, my fault. If you press L3, you can change color. So I'm going to turn it to kind of a gray. Okay, so I kind of like doing gray stations, kind of light gray a lot of times. And so this one, there's gonna be some parts of it that are fairly basic. There'll be some parts that are a little more unique. And now it's not on the grid because I messed that up. So let me restart this. And so here's the thing: if you delete or you don't like the pieces you've used, if you delete them all, it doesn't keep that station open. You've got to restart it. So there we go. And now as you can see, it's not quite there, but there it is. So now I'm going to drag that piece down. Once again, let's do a grayish lime plaster, because I'm actually going to put a border around this as well. And the key is whatever my station looks like, I'm going to have my transfer track, which we're going to do in the next episode, look the exact same as well. So there we go. So that's a little bit off. So sometimes if you change the grid size, that might actually work. So let's see. Now you know what, we just might have to do this one a little bit different. And so sometimes you just gotta kind of work with it. So I'm gonna change grid height. There we go. And so now it's not quite lining up how I want it to, but it's alright. That'll be fine. I mean, it'll get the job done either way. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And a lot of people like to put ceiling pieces on the part below right here. Nobody ever looks at that, so that doesn't really bother me. It's just kind of, it's up to you. It's just whatever you want, whatever you feel like works best for your individual rides. So let's do that. So now I'm just going to go around and I'm going to do the bottom portion as well. But let's take this and let's turn the grid size back up to 4. And also, auto stacking is something that works well if you're trying to stack stuff on top of each other. In this instance, we're not trying to do that. So having auto stacking on will just frustrate you. Now, one thing that I am going to try to create here as well is I'm going to create a little bit of a let's see if this is perfect already. It's not quite, but I can adjust it. Because what I'm going to do is actually, you know what? Let's see. Yeah, so it's not quite, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Is I'm going to show you how you can make kind of stairs too to kind of map it. So one thing that I don't like about this game, or about what they do with the building, is with when you're doing your stairs, you have to have that curb on there. And I wish there was an option to take the curb off like you can on the ground and stuff. All right, so there's our the basics right there. Now the question becomes, okay, what do we want to do with our roof and this other portion of it? So one thing that I do like to do is it's good to kind of get the roof going so you can kind of have an idea of what that's going to look like. So there are a couple different options that we can do. One of them is we can use actual roof pieces. So if you go to roof, you got flat roof, you got pitched roofs. You know, you've got this corrugated roof. The ones I kind of use most of the time would be like the wood tile. But since we're not really using wood or kind of metal or anything, I'm going to show you how we can utilize something different. I mean, you can also change the color of this to fit, so it's really up to you. But what I really like, or what I've started doing, is using art pieces. So if you go to props, and you go to art shapes, and I go to flat shapes, if you take the largest rectangle, and then now here's a cool move that you can do as well. If you turn stick to surface and align to surface, what it does is it sticks to the surface that you're looking at. So now it is perfectly parallel to that side. So now what I can do is I can go up to move, and I can do advanced move, and then go here to advanced rotate, and I can rotate it to where now it's directly parallel to there. So I can move it however high I want and so forth. So you can keep it flat, you can angle it, do whatever you need to do. So here's what I want to do on this one. Let's change the color, and you know what color goes with gray? I mean, blacks can work. You can kind of do a darker shade of gray. Kind of do, well, that's obviously an ugly brown, but if we go over here, we can kind of change it to just kind of trying to figure out something that works. I kind of like that darker color, because I'm really bad at choosing colors, guys. There's a lot of things in this game that I'm not great at. Yeah, so what I'm going to do here, and we're going to, so this portion is going to be flat. So I'm just taking it down because what I want to do is make sure that it's covering everything it needs to cover. So I'll probably have it overhang just a little bit. So now it's going to go up and probably about here, because we don't want it to be necessarily too high. So I'm just going to do that, and then now, because art pieces can't be on a grid, so I'm just going to move it over. And, you know, sometimes you get that annoying thing that happens. So what you can do if that happens is we can say, all right, well that's not going to work. So what I can do, if you don't like that whatever it's called that's happening right there, you could just take a smaller art shape, and I could turn this one I could turn it this way, and then you could try to the best of your ability. But you know what, why am I doing it like that when I could just... And sometimes it won't quite align like you're wanting it to. So what I'm going to do is let me grab a different one. Let me grab it again. And still not doing what I want it to do. So we're not going to worry about the fact that sometimes it likes to do that little flashing because the colors are fighting and so forth. So I'm just going to move this over a little bit. Alright. So now that would represent kind of that first level. Well, now I'm going to take what I just worked on. So I'm going to highlight those. And I don't know why it was 4. I clicked on the wrong thing. So this is one thing I know with the console version that PC would probably be a lot better for, is the multi-select and everything. So now I'm going to, well, I guess it won't let me group them. So I'm going to copy it. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to add a little bit of a height variation to it. So I'm just going to angle it up a little bit. And let's do 15 degrees. And you know, I don't know if this is the one I'll end up sticking with. But so now we just want to get this to where kind of matches up. Okay. So now what we can do is I can take this and I'm going to flip it around. All right, so it's not quite covering the entire, station yet, right? So what I can do is I can select everything, and this is kind of where, you know, everybody's, like I said, everybody's got their own way of approaching things. I'm just trying to show you one way that you can create a station. So now, like I said, this multi-select thing, not the best sometimes. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift it over, and you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to shift it over this way. That looks like that would be. I'm just checking to make sure. Okay. Just checking the height. So now what I would do, since this part's not fully covered, I would just take these and I'm going to just copy them over. So now I'm advanced move, duplicate, and I'm just going to move it over this way. Alright, so like I said, with this, it's not necessarily the best station, it's not the most unique, it's just something that's kind of not too difficult to do overall, but yet it's different than just, you know, plain square box and so forth. So now we've got that part done, we just need to figure out a couple other things. We need to figure out if we want to add anything to our shape. And so what I mean by that is, one thing I like adding is I like adding some, whether it's coaster supports or wooden beams. I like adding a little bit of substance to it, or a little bit of, why am I forgetting the word now? You guys will see what I mean. So taking a wooden pillar and use kind of the same color that we just did. So now, since it's aligned to the surface, I'm just going to turn this up and I'm going to put this back to 45 degrees. And so this is going to kind of be like a trim in a sense, right? So I'm just going to go down. And the reason I have it a little bit higher too is because I'm also going to have that border the top portion of it. Because it always kind of looks weird if it's just like a little bit flat with nothing else. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that I have these beams, and I'm going to copy them, and then they're going to border, so it'll be right here. So now I'm just going around and, oops. So I'm just going around doing that real quick. I don't know why I'm trying to move it back a little bit. There we go. Alright, because I want to try to get it close to the other side as possible. So now I need to border the top of it. So now I'm going to turn this up. There we go. It doesn't really matter to me that I've got it over where the entrance is, because I mean people are just gonna walk right through it. That doesn't bother me one bit. But everybody's different. You might want to do something a little different there, and that's fine, because you're more than welcome to do that. So now usually what I like to do before I do the sides here is I'll just kind of go over and do here, which I guess I could have copied everything, but it's all good. So now this just kind of gives me a little bit of a border, a little bit of trim on the station. So the one part that's going to be a little bit different here is when I get to this other portion, because of the fact that we have the station right there, and the train cars that are going to go, it's a little different, right? So we just need to use a different size beam for the other side. Alright, so now I just need to use a different side beam. So instead I'm going to use the 2 meter. And yeah, I guess it's already using the same color, so that's good. So now, same thing we were just doing. And you turn this one sideways. So I'm also going to do this right there. And I realize that's a little bit off, but it's all good for the sake of time. Alright, so the next thing to do is to support the ceiling, right? And now I'm not going to get super detailed with this just for the sake of time. But one thing I do like using is I like using the poles. So let me go back here. Honestly, I hate the search system here because you got to get it back on. Like, I always forget where stuff is or where stuff's located. So I kind of like using this road sign pole, and I just color it. So I'll kind of color it black. And then now I can just, which see, that's not aligned properly, so let's see. Alright, there we go. So sometimes you just have to change the alignment like that. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. So, first thing I'm going to do is have them here on the outer edge. Alright. Now I'll usually do, I like turning move snap on here just because of the distance. So now there you see how move snap messed up where the thing was located at. All you gotta do is exit out of it and then go back to it now. So yeah, so this is actually not perfectly straight, and the reason is because I guess maybe it is showing through because a little bit of I guess the other side had the wooden beam there to help protect it. Yep. So we'll just put it right there. Not a perfect world, but it's all good. So that did the same thing. So now, okay, good. So I guess that is straight. There we go. So now what I'm going to do, instead of doing that, redoing that whole thing, I'm just going to copy I couldn't even tell what it was copying. So let me see this. Or what you can do sometimes is turn down the brush size. And that can help. So now I just gotta delete these. Alright, so now with those, I'm going to copy them. And I gotta move that one on the outside. So let's actually take move snap off because I want to get it right here, kind of where the elevation changes. That I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, so I miscopied something there, but it's all good. We'll fix that in a second. So I'll be honest, building stations is never easy. I mean, you kind of get better at it, but it's like there's just, depending on how tricky you want to make it, there's just a lot of things that could kind of go wrong. Like you see here, I did it a little bit too far, so let me actually delete those. This one needs to move over a little bit. I don't know why it does that. So you can see why this gets a little bit tricky, right? So now let's, once again, I don't know why it lowered it like that, but it's all good. Now this might not be as perfect as the other one. It's all good at this point. Just trying to make sure this video isn't too long. Yeah. And as always, make sure and chime in if you got a more efficient way of doing things. I'd love to hear you. I'd love to hear what you do. You know, what's your favorite kind of station to build? And so now I just kind of go through and I delete ones that I need to be deleted. So this one needs to be deleted because it's in the middle of a queue line. Same thing with this one. Now another thing, obviously I need to support this a little bit more because there needs to be some kind of support here from a realism standpoint. So two more things that I'm going to do and then we'll be done. One thing I'm going to do is I need to do fencing around the outside of it. Simply because if this was real life, and that's one thing I like trying to do, is I try to like making stuff realistic. People would potentially fall off the station platform and would sue, right? So why is this not? Oh, I didn't have the align surface on. Sorry, I was wondering why it wasn't aligning it like it normally does. All right. So now I've got that turned up. And honestly, I like using these a lot because I think they're just really basic. They kind of go with everything. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to move them along. And sometimes you get to a point like this, so I'll just kind of do that. It doesn't matter, it's doubled up. Nobody really notices that stuff unless you're looking really detailed at it. So now you just do this, and obviously I gotta correct this part right here because that should not have continued over like that. Now let's go all the way over. Probably could have just copied it, but I feel like sometimes when the amount of time that it takes you to multi-select and then delete what you didn't mean to select, especially when you're dealing with a station like this, it makes more sense just to go ahead and do everything that you were going to do. Alright. So now the last part, we just got to do this last side. Alright, there we go. So now we've got our station. We also need to do lights, which I'll do that kind of on the next part of it. Last thing I want to mention, though, that I've started doing a lot, and I really like this, and I think it looks really cool, is laying down hazard strips. Because I don't like how the station looks when it's presented. So these hazard strips are going to stick to the side like normal. Okay, and so you can keep them colored this way. I've started recoloring them to match the colors of the ride, and so I think that's really cool to be able to do it that way. So for instance, now that I was able to align to surface, we can do that. So there's a couple different ways that we could approach this. So now I've got this hazard strip, and well, you know what, I gotta come back and work on that. Hold on a second. I'll get to that in a second. So now I'm just gonna do move snap on. I think they said it was 2 meters. So I'm just gonna go up. Alright, so 6 over the edge just a tad bit, it looks like. But that'll be fine. So now, if we look at the colors for the ride, oops, that's not what I meant to do. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that. If we look at the colors for the ride, track colors are kind of this more burnt orange. And then, you know, we haven't changed the colors or anything, which is fine. Just keeping it as is. And then the other colors are this kind of green. So what you could do, and I don't know how this will look, so let's bear with me for a second. So if I click on that, it's going to click on the station for the coaster. So what I can do is I can delete it, and then I can select all those hazard strips, and I can delete that. So now what I'm left over with is these 8 hazard strips. So now I hit the square button, and then press the left arrow key, and it replaces everything. So now I can click confirm, and I can group the scenery. So now what I can do is I can then copy it, and I can move it to the other side. Let me turn move snap off. I can move it to the other side. So why is it? Hold on, I don't know why I didn't pick up on both of them. But alright. So let's see. Alright, so now it's got both of them. What I can do is I can kind of look at the colors a little bit. So I can say, alright, well let's do this orange. Let's do this green. This might look terrible, but let's give it a try. Actually, that's not that bad. That looks different. I like it. So it's different, right? It's unique. And then what we could do is you could even extend these same colors over here. Or personally, what I like to do, I know this adds extra pieces. So some people are very much, you know, just like, you got to be careful because of the Oswald meter. But what I personally like doing is I like extending it this way. And so now I'm gonna recolor it. Sorry guys, the video stopped recording there for a second. So I'm gonna recolor it, and I'm gonna color it black. So now I can copy it. I just hate how this part is tedious. Believe me, I understand. So now this one, I'm going to group that scenery. I guess, hold on a second, so since I grouped it before what I need to do is I need to press that first, then I can group the scenery. And then now I just copied it and I'm going to shift it over. This should, it gets me almost, not quite, but almost. So then now I really just need to do one more of these. So now I'm just going to click on that, and what I can do from there is I'm just going to select this one row, and if there's any that doesn't get selected, or any that gets selected that's not part of that one row, I can just deselect it. So like there, you see I accidentally selected more than the one row, so I'm just going to come over here, I'm going to deselect it. Alright, I don't know why it's not deselecting it. There we go, but alright. So now I'm just going to copy and paste that, and so that's the problem sometimes, is sometimes you get some of that extra little lag, right? So hopefully, yeah, so now you've got that. So now what we can do is, once again, you can do that to the other side as well. So I'm going to end the tutorial for this right now. And while we're off camera, I'm going to do the same thing over here. So when we start next time on the next tutorial, I can show you and look at it. But it's just doing something a little different for your interior of your station. Now what you could do though also is you could take the pathing system, and by choosing this you can with the queue line, you can choose what you want that path to look like. But there's not a ton of different options, right? I do like that mosaic wood. I think that looks pretty awesome. And then if you actually do the I think it's there's one of them that you can do where it actually colors the portion right there, but I can't remember which one it is. But there's some way to do that. I'll have to look at that and see. But so that's the tutorial for today, is we're looking at building a coaster station. So I hope this was helpful, guys. Like I said, it's nothing too crazy, not trying to do anything too unique, just trying to kind of show you some of the basics that you can use. And like I said, I hope this was helpful. So as always, please make sure to subscribe to our channel, M&J Games, so that you can stay up to date with any videos that we release. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.